Good leaders know the difference between influence and control. Influence and control are not the same thing. To be influenced by someone generally has the idea that they're giving you some good advice, some good input, some notions to consider, some directions that you might want to go. Maybe they outline both ideas and perhaps consequences. Control, though, says you don't get a choice. You'll do what we want you to do, and we don't even discuss it. And those are massively different. And leaders versus managers versus tyrants, well, they know the difference. And good leaders know how to lead through influence and not through control. And that's what I want to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders.
Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.
I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. I know that if you're watching this on social media right now, you might be wondering what in the world is going on because there's multiple different cameras and ways of streaming. And part of that is this protection mode, if you will. I realize that I have messages that I've sent back and forth to people who want to be here in the studio. They want to be guests on the show. And ironically, I get little notifications that I've got a Facebook message, and I open it and there's no new messages there. For days at a time, there's an icon, but there's no new messages. And then suddenly I get a message back from my guest and they say, well, I never heard back from you, so I guess I'm not going to be on the show. I'm like, no, I was waiting for you to tell me what time I was going to be there. And then I scroll back through their messages, and as I'm scrolling, new messages that weren't appearing are suddenly appearing, and I'm thinking, how does this happen? And I'm guessing it's probably in the same way that other things happen, like the Restream app not showing at all. I mean, literally, if I open the Restream app right now, it's a blank screen. There's nothing. It's not showing that I'm streaming. It's not showing that I even have an account. It's just a blue screen. Just a blue screen. Now I can switch around in the browser and close the tabs and open again, and it just doesn't play nice. All of those things are influencing the content of the show today. All of those things are influencing my mood, my attitude, my behavior, the conversation that I'm having. All of those things are influencing, kind of like when you're driving on the road and somebody's rude to you in traffic and it changes your attitude or it changes your behavior, and you find yourself in a moment of what some would call road rage. Influencing your behavior, influencing your thoughts, influencing how you feel. Remember, too, how you think and how you feel, the relationship between those two things, what you think about how you feel and how you feel about what you think, that's called an attitude. Attitude is the most contagious thing on earth. So when those things influence your attitudes, your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotions, they change your behavior. And as they change your behavior, they change the way you interact with the world. And all of those things put together means that suddenly these little tiny outside forces have the ability to redirect your day. Maybe your week, your month, your relationships, your life, your career. I was watching SWAT last night, and one of the characters in the show, found out his wife was having an affair, and so he kicked her out, threw her out, went through a rough time as a result of that, then ran into the smart mouth other guy in a bar. They'd both been drinking a little bit, they got into a fist fight, and it wrecked the career of the SWAT officer. He found himself in trouble, found himself suspended, lost his opportunity for the next leadership promotion because he lost his cool and he lost control in a moment that it mattered. Now, I just wonder if you've ever found yourself in a place where somebody pushed your buttons, they provoked you to react in a way that, well, it wasn't your norm. But you wonder too, was it intentional? See, here's what we know over the course of human history, that influencing people's behavior, their attitudes, their thoughts, their feelings, that's not hard at all. It's not hard at all. You can do it through magazine ads. You can do it through billboards. There are people who are provoked to rage over a billboard with a baby on it that says, "Baby lives matter." Provoked to rage. provoke to vandalize the sign, run over the sign and try to knock it down, run over the people who put up the sign, provoked to rage over a billboard on the side of the road that's literally doing nothing but displaying a message. And because we know that that's true, we know that there's a way to kind of poke at people, prod people, get under people's skins, provoke them to rage, provoke them to silence. How many people have you known that they really want to say something, but you can almost literally see them biting their tongue because they don't want to say what they really think or feel because someone else has paid the price for having spoken a similar thing. In the last 48 hours, we've seen two different news anchors on two different ends of the spectrum lose their jobs for things that they said. I remember in the military, there was a moment where you could walk into the commander's office or walk into another ranking official in your chain of command, and they might ask you a question. And you better mind your P's and Q's about how you answer that question to whom and what kind of content you include in that question. And you better remember who you're talking to. And remember the context that you're talking in. And at some point, you might realize you need to ask for permission to truly speak your mind. You've got to ask for permission to speak freely. And it's the discretion of the higher ranking official to determine if that permission is granted. And they must verbalize it. Permission granted. And it's supposed to be that once permission is granted to speak freely, permission to speak freely, please, permission granted. After that moment, it's supposed to be that what you say won't be held against you. It will be taken into consideration, but it's not considered offensive intentionally. Unfortunately, it doesn't work in the news media. That doesn't work in your marketing and branding. That doesn't work in your staff meeting or your town hall. It doesn't work in a place where you're gathered together and you're the ranking official. What you say will still come back to haunt you. The old Miranda rights says anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Well, it doesn't stop with law enforcement. Anything you say can and will be used against you on the street corner, in the marketplace, in front of your business leaders. Now, there's a place where the tipping point becomes the real question. You've seen the videos of the seesaw, some call it a teeter-totter. One swings back and forth, one tips one side versus the other. But the one that tips one side versus the other, you've seen when a smaller person is on one side and a larger person is on the other, and they jump to try to launch the other one. There's a tipping point like that with influence versus control. And when there's too much influence exerted, it becomes control. And all of a sudden, you don't have someone who's giving advice and possibly outlining consequences and allowing you to decide on your own. No, they're giving input to you to provoke you to make a decision that is in their best interest in the first place. Their intent was to cause you to act in a certain way, to behave in a certain way, to think in a certain way, to believe in a certain way, to do in a certain way. And because they had that intent from the very beginning, well, they also have the ability to manipulate you. And they can use that influence, that pressure of a personnel file, the pressure of your hiring documents, the pressure of your job description, the pressure of HR policies or EPA policies, or policies that are not even laws. They really shouldn't be able to be enforced, but because some people are ignorant of the course of law, you can be bullied into obeying an unlawful order, bullied into doing things that are not in your best interest, bullied into behaving in a way that eventually will bring about your own demise. And you can be bullied into that through misleading, misinterpretation, misinformation, or just straight up lies. And those who seek to control influence you that way. Now, add to that the ability for someone, say 3 interviewers in a room versus 1, to look at your responses from multiple directions simultaneously. A very clever interviewer has the ability to use what Dr. Caroline Leaf calls a multiple perspective advantage, to step out of the moment and say, well, what if I looked at it through this lens? Or what if I looked at it through this lens? Or what if I looked at it through the eyes of someone else? How different would the answers be? Well, when there's multiple interviewers in a room, that's exactly the advantage that they have, the multiple perspective advantage. You probably still only have the one. And so their ability to ask you a question out of left field, and then out of right field, and then right down the middle. It's like watching a pitcher who's got a great curveball and a great sinker and a great slider. You're going to have a really hard time figuring out where the ball's coming from to figure out which one to hit. The conversation, whether it's through media or social media, through newsprint, through Facebook, through conversations that you're having with people face to face, that conversation has the ability to influence your thoughts, your attitudes, your decisions. And sometimes they'll throw a question at you or a statement at you out of left field or out of right field or right up the middle as a curveball, that as you respond to it, you're not just giving the answer for this moment. What you're doing is feeding the next pitch. Oh, I saw how they responded to that question out of left field. Let's go at them like this. I saw how they responded to that pitch. Let's change our pitch just a little bit. Let's change our pace of questioning and add a sympathetic voice and soften our response, and we'll see how they respond to that. Let's be a little more demanding and a little more exacting and more precise in our language and see how they respond to that. Yes, manipulative leaders, tyrants, those who want to control you, they use influence like a good leader would, but they use it in nefarious ways. Let me give you a little warning. A day is coming when that mental process of testing and responding differently to every test won't be about how many interviewers or how many people or how long the discussion. It will be done by AI. And the link that takes you to scroll from one meme to the next. They might even be testing, I've seen it on Facebook already, the same message, exactly the same content with two different images behind it. And how you respond to one versus the other, because the message is pretty much undeniable. But which imagery tickles your fancy tells them a whole lot more about you than you think it does. I've seen a Facebook meme with all Japanese-style anime behind it, and another message, same message, with the guys from Peaky Blinder behind it. The message in both was the same. It said, build a team so strong that no one knows who the leader is. Well, you could agree with the message, but be offended by Peaky Blinders. You could agree with the message and be really excited about the Japanese anime. And the choice of which one of those you like and share versus ignore tells the AI as much as how do you respond to a sharp, intentional, direct accusation versus how do you respond to a soft, sympathetic question like it? Is that really what happened? You see how drastic those differences are. Good leaders know the difference between influence and control. Tyrants and micromanagers, they know the difference as well. And they will use what looks and feels like influence in order to control you. If you're a good leader, I highly recommend you stay within the bounds of good influence, allowing people to make decisions on their own, giving them all the information they need, understanding where they're coming from and what their perspective is, explaining to them what the consequences of the decisions will be or what the rewards and benefits of those decisions will be, and let them decide for themselves. Tyrants and micromanagers don't give that choice. Good leaders inform, advise, and allow. That's the way a good leader works, with influence. I challenge you to be a good leader. I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.
Hi, my name is Christina Knowles, and I just got done taking Jay Loren's Story Power Masterclass. It was amazing. I took away so much information. One of the things that I really enjoyed being formally trained in media many years ago is the call to action. I will use that with every speaking engagement, and I'm so grateful that Loren just spoke truth into his teachings, and he is a true professional. And I know this might sound weird, but I've been taking certifications in different classes over the years, and Loren is not boring. I can't even believe I got here at 9, and then the class went by so fast that I was like, it's time to go already? And I was shocked that it was time to go already. So it's an awesome class. You're going to enjoy it, I promise.
Loren is a master teacher on storytelling, and I learned so much. I'm really going to have to sit down and go back through everything, and I think I might have to have some more coffees with Loren, but it was totally worth my time.